Lionel, welcome. Great to have a man of finance in studio today. It's an important day for the city of Joburg. The 2018-2019 budget will be placed before council to be approved. Why is it so important for citizens to take an interest in the city budget?
Well, I think, everything that we do has a financial impact. The city derives its revenue from its citizens. Therefore, we pay for something and we expect to get something in return. And I think it's important that given the cash-strapped consumer that's out there, when you pay for something, you should know what you get in return. And the budget is the one way that the citizens can actually find out what they are buying, what they are purchasing with their money, and if they're getting value for money.
The national budget certainly gets a lot of attention. Do you think that more attention should be given to municipal budgets, like city budgets?
Absolutely.
And why? Why?
The national budget, obviously the taxes that we pay and the infrastructure, but the city budget brings it closer to home. City is where we live. It is where we spend our money. That is where we drive on the roads. We see the infrastructure. And I do think that citizens should take a more active interest in the budget because it impacts you, it impacts your neighbour, it impacts the schools, it impacts the streets. And that is where we can see whether the money is being spent properly. If we looked at what happened recently, with only 13 municipalities getting clean audits, they're talking about wasteful expenditure increasing 75% year on year.
That's quite hefty.
That's our money. That's our money going down the drain. So it's important to know where they plan on spending the money, but even more importantly afterwards to track whether that planned expenditure and budgeted expenditure had taken place as indicated in the budget. So there's two phases: taking an interest in the budget, indicating where the money will be spent, but more importantly afterwards tracking whether the money had actually been spent where we expect it to be spent.
And also I think it's important to gauge how much of money the city has available to run the city for the next year.
Absolutely. If we look at it on face value, it appears as if there should be sufficient revenue. They are budgeting for a surplus this year, which is encouraging. The cost of budgeting for a deficit and then finding the funding to make up the deficit is expensive, and then they would look at other ways to make up the shortfall. The one question though is, what is the realistic prospect of actually achieving those revenue targets to achieve the surplus? And also looking at not just increasing the current revenue from the current contributors to the budget, but looking at those that don't contribute and avoid paying their fair share to the city's fiscus, that we actually bring them in, and not just increasing those that pay year on year for the same services.
Sure, so you had the opportunity to actually go through that draft budget, I take it?
Yes.
What would you say about the state of the city's finances, just looking at that overall?
Well, it's a voluminous document, 200 pages. On face value, it looks very encouraging. So if we assume that those revenue targets will be met and the expenditure will be curbed and stay within the parameters of what the city is proposing to spend, then it does look an encouraging budget. There seems to be enough surplus to spend the money on capital expenditure and infrastructure projects, but one has to be realistic. Very often our revenue targets are not met. We fall short of the revenue targets, and the one area where we often fail is spending more than what we budgeted, and that very quickly puts a squeeze on the city's finances. So it is very well worded. It appears as if the bottom-up approach that had been followed was done well, that the analysis had been well performed. But again, the question is, are those targets realistic? We're looking at property rates going up 18%. It's a significant increase. We're looking at water going up about 14%. And the citizens that always pay their fees, those are the ones that will find it difficult to pay these increased tariffs that they have budgeted for.
But do you think that consideration is given to that when increasing tariffs, that is the affordability of the increases?
You know, that's a very difficult question. You know, we all find the finances being tight. If everybody had the ability to afford it, I think then, you know, the challenges that any institution in a modern society would be a lot less. Yes, I think consideration is given, but unless they actually aim to meet high targets, then you're never going to achieve it. So invariably, the targets that are set, we fall short of them. Therefore, if you set lower targets, then you're just going to come very much shorter of that
Sure.
achievement. So we do tend to set high targets to try and give us that ability to achieve it. Is fair consideration given to the ability of the man on the street to pay it? Probably not. And that's why I say maybe we should look at those that don't contribute to the fiscus, to actually bring them into the pool. The more people that contribute, the easier it is for those that already contribute to continue to contribute. Or else we find people that would look at ways to also find themselves in the pool that don't contribute and cut themselves out of it.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for your valuable contribution this morning.
It's only a pleasure. Thank you very much.